This is WOVV. You're listening to 90.1 FM on Ocracoke Island and WOVV.org. And this is Pete Vankevich. This is a Friday morning, 11:30, and this is called What's Happening on Ocracoke. And we have two special guests here this morning. Marcy Brenner. Good morning, Marcy.
Good morning, Pete.
And Jasmin Flores.
Good morning.
Good. All right, we're going to do this is our weekly show, and we're just going to have a little conversation, see what you both are up to, and hopefully our listeners will enjoy it as much as I am. And I see your guitar there, Marcy, and I've often had people in like Belize thinking I always have the best seat on the island when I'm interviewing people who are musicians here, so thank you for coming in, both of you. Let's start with you, Marcy. I know most people know your story, are familiar with it, but there are quite a few that aren't. So tell us a little bit about who you are. How did you, especially how did you end up on Ocracoke? And then we'll talk a little bit about your creative side, which is multifaceted these days.
Thanks. Yes, my husband's Lou Castro, and we met in 2001, and I had him come down to Ocracoke to, quote, screen my porch. And we never left, so we've been here about 20 years. But before that, we met at the music store and as musicians. And I got to Ocracoke in the kind of turn of the millennium there. I came with friends, old childhood friends, had
Right.
come down. And I was on the ferry, and although I lived in California, I just felt like I was going home. And I got here, and I knew Betty Schotten was the only person I knew.
Right.
Fell in love with it and moved here.
Wow. You know, I met you right around that time. Julie Howard had, we used to call it the youth hostel, that nice building over there on Lighthouse Road. And she was having these little poetry readings or creative writings. And you showed up, and I didn't know you. I was just bought a house here, and you were Marcy. And I think for a couple of years I knew you as a writer, not as a songwriter. I learned about that later. So anyway, so tell us a little bit about, okay, so you got here and you were writing poetry even back then, but obviously you had the music skill as well. So tell us a little bit.
Actually, a song I'd written, Dead Girl Walking.
Okay, was that right? Yeah. Good. Okay, so you started up with Coyote music group, right? And so you and Lou have been playing together for quite a while. Is that correct?
Yeah, 20 years.
How many albums are there? More than, I think you're in double digits. Yeah, and on several others, of course. So
On Molasses Creek.
Right.
Records, of course. And
Yeah.
John Golden.
Poor John. John Golden was just a treasure, just a great friend of Ocracoke Island for many, many years. A great songwriter, musician, you name it. And I did a nice interview with him, and he ended up being an engineer. He got his degree and went up in the Appalachian, West Virginia, on a big project. And that's where he discovered the love of Appalachian music, and that stayed with him the rest of his life, too. So, yes, John passed away, sadly, several months ago, and the Ocracoke Festival, he has been part of, I think, every one but the first one, if I recall. But anyway, they call it now the John Golden stage, one of the two stages in tribute to. So that's how esteemed he is, and he's recorded a lot with Gary Mitchell as well. So
A lot for Martin Garrix music, too.
Right.
Catalog it, have it live on into the future.
So Jasmin, good morning. How are you?
Good, how are you?
We were just chatting. You went to school, same class as my boy Michael, who for 3 years, who was here too.
Ocracoke School. Yeah.
That's the Ocracoke School. We are one campus there from pre-K to senior year. So let's find out why are you here this morning? I know why, but why don't you tell us a little bit about your singing and how did you get involved with that?
Yeah, so music has always been a big part of my life. From my heritage is very colorful. So growing up, my dad always had the tunes playing, and at a young age I was like, there was big artists like Selena that always come to our mind when we're little girls. We want to be singers with a microphone. So I started singing at a very young age, where I probably wasn't the best. I kept practicing. I would practice every day. My mom would be like, you need to stop. It's like, you're annoying. Like 3 hours a day, I would practice and practice, shut myself in the room. and I just got to a point where I started listening to a variety of musics and trying to see what I really liked. I started working with Lou and Marcy in probably middle school. And she's always been somebody that I really look up to. So it's an honor and a privilege to be working with her, and I always come to her when I have ideas with music or if I need some help. So they've been a big help in my music life.
Well, Lou and Marcy have been great mentors for so many people on this island. And they also do the Coyote +1 at the Coyote Den. The only night, Marcy, you got me out was those concerts there over the last couple of years, pre-Dorian. And I just absolutely loved them. And but one of the things, we had a few people there, and they kind of hadn't performed for quite a while. We had Rob Scherer in here, who is an accomplished musician, you name it, with Crackdown. They play every year at the Ocracoke Festival. They've been at the school doing training. He loves this island, and he's been often the guest there. And usually after the Ocracoke Festival, by the way. But Rob's just a very clever guy and all of that. And I said, you ever get nervous like you haven't played up front? And I said, when you're with Coyote +1, I imagine there's no better safety net in the world than having Lou and Marcy have your back. And he said, you're absolutely right on. Even people like me, you know. So that's
great time with Rob
Well,
Scherer.
That's the nice thing about those concerts, by the way. You just bring in someone, and like I say, you got 24 hours pretty much often just to get something together and go out there, and then it's kind of you're on your own impromptu, but boy, it makes a wonderful show.
It's
and
our favorite musical invention.
Right.
It was the Coyote +1.
I can't tell you, like, God, I don't know, 30, 40 people at the most, but, it's just always just a nice little group, and then you have that break outside, and, I'm telling you, I've made friends from just going to those concerts. We just exchange a little things, and next thing I know, I'm in touch with them for something. So anyway, that's one of the great misses from Dorian, Marcy. So
Me too.
Did you get any music training at the school too, or do you pretty much did you on your own?
Pretty much
Jasmin?
on my own. Yeah.
Right.
I haven't had any, I guess you could say, I haven't gone to music school or anything, so I just kind of do it by ear. And like I said, I always look to Marcy and Lou whenever, if I need to perform a song in some place, I go to her and I'm like, hey, listen to this real quick. Can I sing it for you? Give me any points. Or, so she's a big part of my journey.
Right. Now you grew up, you're bilingual. You
Yes.
speak Spanish.
See?
You grew up speaking Spanish.
Yes.
Do you prefer to sing in English or Spanish, or does it matter to you?
I like both, but I feel like in Spanish, it's just, I don't know, maybe because I'm really in touch with my heritage, that I feel like my emotion really comes in from a special place. And I love singing in English, but my Spanish voice is just so different.
Well, my Spanish is okay. My French is better, but I love Spanish language. But it's got to be one of the most prettiest sung languages in the world. I mean, I've been doing radio here, music shows on Monday nights forever, and I usually do a world tour, meaning 4 songs I'll choose from other languages. It's just part of a long 2-hour show. And so I've listened to many, many different languages, but boy, Linda Ronstadt, what was that album, Canciones de mi Padres? And boy,
Yes.
boy, can she sing, but boy,
Yes,
she
she's
does that.
amazing.
Go ahead.
We're actually working on that on one of her songs for the festival.
Really?
Yeah, so it's funny how you brought her up. We were actually working on them last night. Yeah.
Laureles.
Yes,
Oh.
Los Laureles. Yeah.
Excellent. Boy, can she sing. I mean,
Yes,
she's got a great
she's
voice
amazing.
anyway, but boy, that has got to be one of her best recordings ever,
Yeah,
too. And
definitely.
she's done so many.
We have the honor of being able to back up Jasmin for the Latino Festival in
Okay.
November. So Lou
So-
and I are her band.
Jasmin, let me put on record, you have no better safety net behind you than Lou and
Well
Marcy.
aware of that. Yes.
So anyway, well, let's talk a little bit about the Latino Festival. Go ahead.
Okay, so right now we have the dates of November 20th as the festival. We have performances on Friday, but we also have some on Saturday, like with the food and the games and all that stuff. And then
Right.
we have the dance at night at the community center. So we're still, I'm part of the committee.
Right.
So we're still planning out everything that's going on those days.
Good.
Yeah.
Now, this is sponsored by Ocracoke Alive,
Right. Mm-hmm.
the same folks that do the Ocracoke Festival and a ton of other things and good
Yes.
stuff on the island. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, right. Well, Marcy, I see you got your guitar ready here. So what do you want to do? Can you give us this, perform with us?
Yes, just speaking with Jasmin, we're going to do the song that she helped me to really finish, because it's a song about a woman that I just admire so much. She's extraordinary. Her name is PHOEBE, and she's a woman of California history. She created the YWCA out in San Francisco at the turn of the century. She was a suffragette. She lived through the big quake.
Wow.
She
Right, 1904, right? I think so.
she built the UC Berkeley, the Greek Theater, with Julia Morgan at UC Berkeley. Her name's Phoebe Apperson Hearst, and she's just a sort of a forgotten woman of history. And I just honor her contribution to my life as a woman, to have freedom that she fought for, but also her love of California and everything Californios, if you will.
Uh-huh.
And she bought a ranch there on the central coast of California back at the turn of the century. And it's my favorite place on earth.
Right.
And I've always wanted to write a song about it. And so we lived 100 some odd years apart from each other, but we loved the same land. So
And
the
you
song
did,
is about
you
her.
did live in
and
California,
land.
didn't you, for a while?
For 20 years.
20 years.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
so you're
And I
from-
lived on the Central Coast.
So
So it's one of
yeah.
my favorite places in the world.
Good.
So I get to honor one of my favorite women and my favorite place in the same
Excellent.
song. It's called Phoebe.
All right.
And Jasmin helps me because it became a Spanish ranchero song. I used to play ranchero music in California, but not speaking Spanish well enough. I felt a disconnect with being able to sing it, a lead voice anyway. So this song begged for it, and Jasmin came over, and the two of us translated the chorus together into Spanish, and it was a wonderful experience to do that and
Pretty
talk
amazing.
about what I was trying to say and how you would say it in Mexico. And so she's going to sing part of it in Spanish as well.
Excellent. Wow.
And
Okay.
we're doing a music video as well, and the Ballet de Folklorico de Ocracoke
Right.
has given me some footage, and we have some beautiful Ocracoke women dancing in our video. It's
Excellent.
lovely.
Good.
So it's an homage to the coast of California.
I love
and
that word, by the way. Homage. That's good.
I'm going to hit a few chords, so Richard has a little bit of... And now I just want to make sure you have me in your hands, Richard, before I go. Yeah? Your life story hangs framed on the walls, Phoebe. A socialite freshly rendered in oil and gilt. A silver blue Patrona suffrage built, rattling a cage of gold above my head, quaking me awake in your antique bed. History cannot recall or feel sorry for us. It's crying at the top of an enchanted hill. Our tears roll down the rocks at Piedras Blancas. Waves wash over our exile, and even still, you're forever caught on canvas, and I'm a dusty memory on a windowsill. You warned me in pictures, but I miss them all, Phoebe. Post and alone in ermine, dressed to the hilt. Your silvery slippers were too large to fill. We were captured by wounded wolves, dressed as family. The backward fairy tale started bright, but left us lonely. History cannot recall or feel sorry for us. Crying at the top of an enchanted hill, our tears roll down the rocks at Piedras Blancas. Waves wash over our exile, and even still, you're forever caught on canvas, and I'm a dusty memory on a windowsill. The ranch house veranda is my favorite place, Phoebe. The side yard is littered with lament and magnolia leaves. Bougainvillea and wisteria, heavy with bees, Moorish tiles and wildfires, and then Spanish flu. The newspaper said the influenza was the death of you.
Historia no puede recordar ni sentir lástima. Llorando en la cima de un cerro encantado, lágrimas ruedan a las rocas de piedras blancas. Las olas limpian alejamiento y aún así, atrapado para siempre en lienzo, soy un recuerdo polviento en el marco de una ventana. Soy un recuerdo polviento en el marco de una ventana.
And I'm just a dusty memory on a windowsill.
Wow, that's absolutely beautiful. God.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
I'm always interested in the creative process, as you're familiar with in our wordplay. How did you come up with this, and how did you write it, too? Because, just before you answer, I do one of my favorite shows, and I like to do this with two people, but it's a music show, songs with great lyrics, because it just makes such an impact. And boy, I mean, these lyrics are incredible. It's poetry. Go ahead.
Thank you so very much. Songwriting to me is just my favorite thing. I'm absolutely addicted to it. I love the art form. It digests so much experience and feeling into every word, almost every line. I just love it. I start with a whole bunch of words. I tell the whole story to myself, every single bit about it, because it's much easier to edit it out than it is to bring it, to make that meat come back again. It's like a big piece of marble, and I just chip away and find the story, and it comes out. And if I just trust the process and trust the muse, it happens.
Wow.
I've been working with a songwriting group out of L.A., a masterclass group that I worked with 25 years ago. Do you know the French folk song that I wrote, Maestro? I know you recall it.
Yes,
because Rob
favorites.
sings it in French for me.
Oh, really?
When we play together, he sings it in French.
He won't get off the hook on that. I'll have him perform at his next visit on the island.
Good. Very, very good.
Get Lulu to back him up. Here's French wife. So
yes, I love that. But Maestro was written about Nick Venet. Nick Venet, he produced Bobby Darin and the Beach Boys and Dory Previn, and Linda Ronstadt, and a bunch of people back in the 70s. And he was my mentor and my teacher of songwriting, and his fiancée at the time was Harriet Schock. And Harriet Schock has continued to teach. In fact, she just was recognized in a walk of fame for her songwriting, teaching, and skills. She wrote Ain't No Way to Treat a Lady and many songs that Helen Reddy made famous, but also a lot of songs for Disney and a whole lot of music over these years. And she's the leader of this songwriting group. And we get together once a week and we have a process that we're sort of all participating in, and we treat our songs like babies, and we critique them so that we don't kill them and help them become, better songs together. So I have this wonderful group of 10 professional Los Angeles songwriters that have helped me birth these latest 2 songs in terms of just a sounding board, really.
Yeah. I should point out the Coyote Den, I thought, was the cultural center of Ocracoke. And the reason is that, a couple nights a week during the week, there'd be just these either music jams, bring your instruments and play, but you also did something called wordplay, which is writers who are trying to get through a manuscript and want to come in and read parts that they've written and get feedback from that. And God, that was one of I always look forward to that one side of you, for doing that. And when you're working on your book, A Baker's Daughter, that was a particular perk because you would bring in recipes you had just tried.
Bring in cookies, chocolate top
cookies. Cookies that would end up in the recipe book. Of that book was recipe. It wasn't all by any means.
That was so fun because people would bring poetry, books, picture books, songs. Even someone came in and did the rap from Hamilton.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And a Hawaiian hula.
Yeah.
It's all words. It's all wordplay, right?
It's inspirational and encourages us would-be writers. There's a French term, poète manqué, which means a missed poet, meaning you're really a poet, but you never really got the ink to the paper. So this is a way to get rid of the poète manqué stigma and try to do something. But also people could just bring in a favorite little short piece that they liked. Creative writing could be passages or poetry as well. So I miss that. I really do. So
me too, Pete.
Let me get back to this song, though, you just did. I just think the cadence and the rhythms and all that match perfectly for a Spanish translation. Jasmin, what do you think?
It was perfect, and I was telling Marcy when she first showed me the song that it has the rhythm to a lot of the music that I listened to growing up. So for her to even think of me was like how could I say no to that? But everything just meshed so good, and we actually did the translation in one night. Like, it was just so easy to come together and kind of pick apart the English part of it, and it happened so quick that I was like, wow, it was like meant to be,
I described the pictures that were in my head, writing the song, because as a songwriter, you want to make pictures for people, and so I described the pictures to her, and I did a real literal translation using a translation software, which, had 28 words in a sentence. And it also was high, Castilian Spanish or something. It wasn't the kind of conversational Spanish that we're familiar with. So it was lovely to translate it to that. And the words, I think, the Spanish words, just do it. Really reach the place that I was trying to reach.
Well, it's pretty obvious you two work very well together.
Yeah.
And I would encourage you just to try to come up with some more bilingual songs like that, or take some of you've already written and see if we can do that. I mean, you can transform and recast for different reasons.
I'm learning the harmony to this one, so hopefully I'll be able to sing that chorus in harmony with her.
Right. So let's get back to Jasmin. You got a song too you want to sing, or how do you want to do that? No, you're all set. That was it.
This is the newest one I just finished yesterday, so I haven't recruited Jasmin for it yet.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I might.
Right. So this again will be the Ocracoke Live sponsored Latino Festival, and that's been going on for because we lost one at
There's
least
been some
once.
fits and starts with it.
Right. For Dorian and COVID, I think, too, knocked it out. So, like so many
5 or
other
6
events
years.
there.
Yeah, I think so.
So, officially it's on. And it's at the Berkeley Manor, which is an indoor-outdoor facility, which makes it a lot easier for us to be able to do that. I mean, that whole question about doing the Ocracoke Festival, but switching it there made it just really conducive. And I heard no negative reports, by the way. Or I should say I've heard no positive reports from that event. So
I love this collaboration because it just reminds me that music is so universal. And that language sometimes keeps us from each other because we can't cascade our words with each other. So you have to communicate in a different way, and words and music do that in any language. I love it.
Definitely. And we really appreciate, like, when people say, hey, you know, come listen to this, and let's mesh everything together and make it one. And we really enjoy when people are really into our culture and really want to learn more. And I've told Marcy, you know, sing some in Spanish, you know, because we've done a little bit where, you know, she follows me along with the song, and it sounds really good. And it's just of losing the fear of not saying it right, but it's just letting it go and really enjoying it.
Right. One of the things, doing music shows for 2 hours every day for 9 to 10 years, you come across a lot of stuff. And one of the things, when Leonard Cohen passed away 2 years ago, I guess now, whatever, he was a very famous writer, both a novelist, poet, and songwriter, and he had a very distinct enunciation. He was from Montreal, so I went to college up there, so I was very familiar with him. There was this Australian guy named Graham Allwright, and fell in love with a French girl. He moved to France and Paris or whatever. And looking background on it, I don't think it lasted that long, but he fell in love with French language and culture, and he could sing. And he became the French language songwriter for Leonard Cohen's material. And so, in other words, he does the translation himself. He sings it, and once again, Cohen's another one that just really can be beautiful in French language. I haven't heard it in other languages, but anyway, he just kind of carved out a little niche, and one of those songs, The Stranger, ended up being one of my top songs of the year because I just discovered it by doing a Leonard Cohen show. So, okay, this is Pete Vankevich. You're listening to What's Happening on Ocracoke, and that's WOVV Ocracoke and 90.1 FM and WOVV Rock. So we have Marcy Brenner and Jasmin Flores in the studio for a very special treat here for me, certainly. And so, okay, so where do you want? We can do a couple things here. Marcy, I want to get to your book. And Jasmin, do you want to hang, or would you have to get back to work, or do you want to still be part of it?
She hasn't heard the new song, so I see her wanting to hang back and be late for work so she can hear the song.
Okay.
You got to wait a few minutes because I want to.
No, yeah, I can wait. I want to hear this other song.
Tell us about your background with the bakery and your dad and the book and how it came about. And I do have inside knowledge there because Marcy would come to Wordplay and read passages from the chapters asking us for feedback. So I saw that book in progress, and it took you a while because it was so thorough that you did. So go ahead, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I thought about it for a long time. When I left home at 17, I knew I would be leaving all of those wonderful treats that I just took for granted and had in my life from my dad being a baker. And then he was a baker his entire life. His father came from Poland as an immigrant, a Jewish immigrant escaping Jewish persecution, and met his wife. They met in New York, my bubby, and they had 9 children, one of which is my dad, and he became a baker as well as most of his brothers except for one. So there are many Brenner's bakeries in the Alexandria, Virginia area. My dad's was in Alexandria. Right. My Uncle Jaime's was in Arlington. My Uncle Julius's was in Oxon Hill, Maryland. And then there were others that came and went through the years. It chronicles that in the book. So I sort of began writing it when I left home, knowing that I somehow, impossibly, had the idea that I wanted to be able to make those things at home, wherever I was. So all those years went by. I won't tell you how old I am, but a lot of years went by. And I started to write the stories, and then I was ready to start baking. And my dad and I did the math. It was 28 pounds of flour, 12 pounds of sugar. Right. It was just an index card of ingredients. It didn't even tell you how to make it. So he helped me figure out the ratio. And then he was older and had dementia, and it was hard for him to put words and numbers together. So he passed it on to me in 2014. And so I started doing the math. And for 2 years, pretty much right before the hurricane, those last 2 years, I was baking every day. I would bake a bread item and then a sweet item every day. Lou loved the process of developing 50 recipes because I had to bake them about 5 or 6 times. But I came up with 50 of the most beloved recipes that people can now make in their home.
Right. And you wove a story in between the recipes, and that's why I don't want to use that word hybrid. It doesn't reflect what that book is, but it has
It's a narrative cookbook, I call it.
Narrative cookbook.
Right?
I like that much
right.
better. But
my old friend Kristen Donnan, she's spent her whole life writing screenplays and books and editing and really, made a name for herself in that world.
Right.
And when I asked her if she would edit it for me, I sent it to her, and she said, of course. So she did it for my dad, Max.
Right.
Because he was her dad, too.
And I did write a book review of that, and I enjoyed, which I tried some of the recipes of things I wouldn't normally do, but I wanted to test them. One thing I did not put in the book, Marcy, is I took one or two of your bread recipes and I tossed them in my bread making machine. It worked. It came out great.
I do it every week.
I did not want to, say there's an easy way around this at that point because the book was just coming out and it was a baker's book, and I'm not a baker, but I did try some baking, and most of those came out. Sometimes I didn't get it mixed properly, so some of the stuff, but that was all me, not the recipe.
I make a loaf of my dad's white bread every week. I don't buy bread anymore.
Using it, yeah.
Oh, I use a bread machine. You're kidding? It takes 4 minutes, and you walk away, and you come home 3 hours later, and you have a hot
and not
loaf
to
of
mention
bread.
how nice it smells 2.5 hours later when you come.
The aromas.
Oh my God!
Sometimes make me swoon because it just reminds me of my childhood in the bakery.
Well, I don't feel
So
bad that I had to
beautiful.
make a confession on
No,
WOVV.
anything
that
that
I was
works.
using a bread
Just
baker
get them in
for
your
your
belly,
book.
Pete.
So.
A little bit of my dad is better than anything.
That book is still in print, and where is it now?
I just printed the fifth run of print run. Just arrived last week. And I'm starting to do how-to videos. So I just got in the can a video of how to do the chocolate top cookies.
Yeah.
So I'll be publishing that as a premiere live video on Instagram and Facebook, and I will be there participating in it live to answer people's questions and laugh and have fun and share memories. I started a Brenner's Bakery Memories Facebook page in 2012.
Well,
and that's
I was
been
familiar
rich.
with two of
Very
the
rich.
Brenners there, the Arlington and the Alexandria one. Just
It's
over
a great
the years.
community.
I lived in D.C. for 30 years, folks. So
We share stories, wedding cakes, birthdays, baby showers. We got to be a part of everybody's celebrations.
Yeah.
So it was a wonderful thing. And my dad got to see all that, the Facebook, all the stories, 88 pages I printed for him so that he could see it. And so before he passed away in 2017, he saw all of that.
When you have a huge following out there, too.
He had no idea what he had created. He created a blessed community of people that love each other and remember it well.
Right. So, well, good.
Yeah.
What's your music schedule for performing this fall?
Yeah, we're just switching now. Tomorrow is going to be our first Saturday, and we're going to do the backyard concerts every Saturday. It's 7:30, a little bit earlier. It's 7:30. Until it's too cold. But on October 23rd, we're going to join Molasses Creek up in Kill Devil Hills at the First Flight High School. We're playing a concert together for the Bryant Cultural Series up there. So that's going to be really fun. It's been a long time since we've been on a stage because of COVID.
Right. We did one basketball game last year, and it was up there for a fundraiser for cancer. So John Griggs and I, and Richard Taylor, our producer here, and I want to thank you. He came along.
Thank you,
and
Richard.
We set up they allowed us to go in and broadcast that game. So yeah, there's some cultural connections between us and up there, so we're always happy to have that. So you do have a fall schedule, at least, for performing.
We do. And at some point we might go back inside and do live streams, but live streams are hard to sing to the lights and buttons and wires. And I sing for other people for conversation, not because I want people to look at me and listen to me. I would like to share it with them. And it's hard with a live stream. It's a little bit soul-stealing. And I'm not sure if I can do it. I did it all last year once the pandemic hit. We did it from March or April all the way through May of the next year. So for a year and a month. And we'll see. I'm pretty sure I will want to try to have that conversation through the wires and lights and buttons again.
Right.
But I might need a break.
Well, I did like those concerts you did with the 3 windows, and it's just like
That's what we're doing, yes.
It was just
that's the
amazing,
backyard concerts,
amazing
right?
perspective of watching that and see the musicians and all that. It was just different, you know?
It is.
And, of course, you sometimes push the envelope a little, Coyote +1 when you have Coyote +2, and one of my favorite performers forever here is Belisa, you know, with Madeline and Umberto. And I was there for that this summer. Boy, wasn't that a wonderful concert?
The house was jumping. It was so great.
Yeah.
But now, then the Delta variants came out, and now we can't have anybody on the stage with us. It's just too much just yet. But that hopefully will ease up, and then we can start mixing it up some more.
Back when the Den was there, and I'm going to single out Lou instead of you for a moment, and Madeline, but Umberto and Lou started getting in. It was towards the end of the show, and they started getting into a jam and going these riffs of just kind of Latin-flavored music. And I'm going, you know, back and forth and all of that. And first of all, how did they manage to work so well together? It's like one person doing it and all that. And you couldn't tell which one was doing it, too. I mean, that level was so high for that. Was one of the highlights of probably my whole music life was that moment
Pete.
there. So
I'll tell Lou that.
So I've told him about
they are amazing.
About that. And
we love
Lou,
them.
I think, too. So, yeah, those have been just these. I swear I'm big for the little house concert style or smaller venues and the bigger ones. So
we were sitting at a restaurant, Gabriel, my friend Gabriel's restaurant in New York City, when we came up with the concept of Coyote +1, and it's been wonderful.
Tell us once again, we don't have coyotes on Ocracoke Island that we know of. Dave Halleck, the superintendent for the Cape Hatteras National Seashore, says it's just a matter of time. They're coming, and I got a credible report over at Portsmouth, but they certainly are up on Hatteras Island. So, but Coyote's an unusual name and would have been even more so here. How did you get the name for the two of you?
Well, I spent all that time in California, and Nick Vinay, the producer who I was speaking of earlier, his logo was a little coyote. And after he passed away, I asked his son if I could use that because we had decided to call ourselves Coyote. And he said yes, that I could. And so that's that little coyote that we use. But the first song that Lou and I learned together was Joni Mitchell's Coyote. Mm-hmm. So that's another connection. And then the coyote in American Indian culture and iconism is the totem of the coyote as the trickster. Mm-hmm. And sort of, your animal spirit is the spirit of the coyote as a trickster. And for Lou and I, you never know what kind of genre we're going to play or what instrument we might pick up, who we might play with. So we feel sort of like tricksters. So we thought that fit us well. So all those reasons why we're called Coyote. And out west, you'd say coyote. So.
Right. It's funny when you hear a name for something the first time, you say, oh, where's that's a little stranger.
I like bringing west to the east.
Right. Well, no one ever blinks when you say Coyote, Ocracoke these days. Remember that word Google when it first came out, how ugly and just discordant? I mean, it just seems so weird that it's just a high-tech way of communicating would be called Google. And now no one blinks at the word Google. I mean,
or Amazon or any of those words.
Amazon, yeah.
E this, I that.
Right.
It's true.
So. Well, I do definitely want to thank you both for coming in. And do you have more you want to add or anything?
I do. I have this song I just finished yesterday that I brought in to share if there's time and you'd like to. And this song has been living in me for a few years. And it comes from my respect and admiration of the women who work the water. So the fisherwomen of Ocracoke and Cape Hatteras and my childhood. So in writing about them, I had forgotten that I had a whole life on the water as a kid. That's what writing will do. It will bring things and teach you things that you didn't know. So I finished this one, and I'll share it for you. And whoever might be listening, the water women that I thought about when I was writing this, this goes out to them. And it's Chelsea and Tree and Jet and Ellen and Shannon and Arlene, and Lisa, and Meredith, and so on.
Wow.
It's called Women of the Water. Okay. Woman of the Water. I'm playing a different instrument here, Pete. I'm playing a cittern, which is a big, large, blown-up mandolin with 8 strings. shaped like a guitar. She slips out of bed before the dawn to a choir of crickets and cheery bird song. She whistles all the way down to the docks and boards her boat, casts off the rope, and steers out of the harbor past the rocks. She's a woman of the water, just like her father taught her. The salt and wind, they tangle in her hair. She feels most at home when she's out there. She's a fisherman's daughter, a woman of the water. It's the peace and quietude she craves, riding the waves and reading the tide. The lore of the clouds and skies sublime. The water whispers like a lover, still tangled in the covers. She answers that call every time. She's a woman of the water, just like her father taught her. The salt and wind, they tangle in her hair. She feels most at home when she's out there. She's a fisherman's daughter, a woman of the water. When she's not on the sea or on the sound, anchored shore, bare feet on the ground, laughing with friends, she sparkles bright. She goes to bed early, the water will call surely. Around the time her mates will call it a night. She's a woman of the water, just like her father taught her. The salt and wind, they tangle in her hair. She feels most at home when she's out there. She's a fisherman's daughter, a woman of the water. She reminds me of the water girl I used to be in my dad's wooden boat on a timeless day, netting crabs like a jubilee and kissing the little fish before throwing them back to the bay. She's a woman of the water, just like her father taught her. The salt and wind, they tangle in her hair. She feels most at home when she's out there. She's a fisherman's daughter, a woman of the water.
That's beautiful.
Thanks, Pete.
Wonderful. Tell me again, we started off saying the book's over now and you're back doing more songwriting, or did you say that?
Songwriting like crazy.
Good.
Yeah, there'll be new ones coming.
Right.
Come.
You have it, I've noticed you like to write tributes to wonderful people. Another one was Jo Bell, about the women, strong women of Ocracoke and the strength of those flowers there. So how did you write that song?
Well, I wanted to, we'd gone through some hardship, personal hardship, and there were 50 people down in our living room helping us through the loss of our daughter. And I wanted to kind of thank everybody, but definitely the women who just sat with me and helped me through that and fed me and supported me. And then the good times, you know, Jasmin, all ages. I was thinking of Mariah Daisy, who was 6 at the time, and Eleanor Garish, who was 96 at the time. And I include all of them in that song in my mind when I'm singing it. So I was also gardening and cultivating my garden, and I wanted a border of Joe Bell flowers, the Gaillardia flowers that we have here. And legend has it that Joe Bell, you know, carried those seeds.
I think Indian paintbrush up
north.
Indian
blanket.
Indian blanket.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we use paintbrush too, though, up in Maine.
Perhaps.
But it doesn't matter. Those are the wonderful flowers you see in the winter out here, the reddish and yellow. Go ahead now.
And they're always on the edges of things, you know, right? But I wanted them where I wanted them. And they wouldn't do it. They didn't want perfect soil. They didn't want a bunch of water. They didn't want fertilizer. They're a different kind of flower. And so were the women of Ocracoke. And so I realized that I had my metaphor, was the Joe Bell flower.
Tell us a little bit, who was Joe Bell?
He was a resident here who carried legend has it, he carried the seeds of that flower in his pocket and really propagated the island with that flower. And
the Johnny Appleseed of the rest of the country. He did his
legend has it he fell off the Ronthaler porch, not dying falling, but he went off the porch, and he died in a patch of Joe Bell flowers.
Okay.
Another legend that I've heard.
Another legend.
Story.
Right, yeah.
Philip Howard probably knows the real story.
Right. It's one thing, we certainly have no lack of good stories. And a nice little combo of truth and have that yardstick, and it's somewhere along the ways it could be truth or a lot of fun made up, but still good stories. So it makes it easy for Donald Davis and Rob Temple and others to tell great stories when they get up on the stage here on the island. So, well,
I think Lauren Hayworth and Kim France are covering Joe Bell flowers this weekend at a gig.
Oh, good.
So it's really nice when your babies are out in the world doing things.
Right, yeah.
Songs being the baby.
Kim plays now with Molasses Creek, but she's one of our many Asheville connections.
And
there.
Aaron Burdett.
Music.
They won the best new song at Merle Fest.
Did they really? Wow, yeah. So, well, good. Do you have any more you'd like to add? This is your time there. This is Community Radio WOVV, folks. This is What's Happening on Ocracoke, and we're wonderful to have Marcy and Jasmin in the studio right now. So go ahead.
Yeah, you'll just hear from us in the future. Lou has been having to be off the island to help his family. So Martin and I have been holding down the fort with our backyard concerts. And we'll do that October 23rd with Molasses Creek. And then on through the winter, I imagine, I'm going to want to share the songs as they come. So we'll be doing little morning music, pickup concerts, and we will let people know on Facebook and Instagram when those are coming out.
Okay.
And a lot more with Jasmin, I hope.
Right. Jasmin, I hope we can recruit you to little radio shows with us there. We're looking for a new broadcaster that can do a little bit of Latin-flavored music, as Freddie and I called it, and you can come in. So you have a standing invite. Why don't you come into one of my shows? We'll work it out. And
sounds good.
Get you comfortable.
I love that.
All right. Yeah.
No good deed goes unpunished on WOVV Studio here, folks. So,
well, thanks for having us.
Yes.
Because sharing is what it's all about. It's all about our community.
Right. Well,
of music and Ocracoke and the world at large.
Marcy, you and Lou both have contributed to this community over the years. It's just absolutely amazing. It makes what Ocracoke is.
We all need each other.
I say that totally sincere, from following you from that day you walked in with some your writings there, and we went from there. But boy, over the years, it's been
Thanks,
great.
Pete.
So. Okay, I think Richard Taylor is here, and I do want to thank him. He's our engineer. So, Richard, thank you so much, and we'll get back to regular broadcasting.